Hello, welcome everyone to Northampton Neighbors Speaker Series. I'm Mark Carpel. I'm on the board of Northampton Neighbors, and I'm part of the group that puts these talks together. I am delighted to be introducing today's speakers, Naomi Yanis and Jonathan Daube, both also members of Northampton Neighbors Board of Directors, and I'm especially delighted to see so many of you here with us today. First, a word about Northampton Neighbors and some logistics for today. We are a member-based nonprofit offering volunteer services, programs, and events to older people who want to continue living independent, engaged lives in their homes and communities with a little neighborly help. We launched 8 years ago. By the time COVID arrived, we had delivered over 1,700 services to our then 1,000 members and provided a variety of ways for all of us to get together socially. We now have over 2,500 members, and we are much more than a ride to the dentist. We have special interest groups, neighborhood circles, regular social gatherings, a very lively listserv where people look for things, offer things, ask and answer questions, and much more. Anyone, anywhere can be a member of Northampton Neighbors. Those who are older than 55 and live in Northampton, Florence, and Leeds can receive services. There are zero dues, fees, or charges for any of the services or social opportunities we provide. It's all absolutely free. Today's topic, what it's like to grow really old, is one that will affect or is already affecting all of us. For that reason, we hope today will be a conversation with you rather than a lecture. Jonathan and Naomi will each talk for a few minutes about their own experiences and observations, and then we'll open up to all of you, and they will be in conversation with you, with each other, and perhaps with me. At the end, each speaker will have a couple of minutes if they want to add any points that didn't come up in the earlier discussion. Lastly, one quick word about coming attractions. On February 6th, Fran Volkman will discuss issues around the decision to end one's life by stopping eating and drinking. Now to our featured speakers. Before retirement, Naomi Yanis was something of a jack of many trades. She taught math as a substitute teacher and at an inner city community college in Paterson, New Jersey. Together with a friend, she opened a resale store. Then she learned how to do programming, and she wound up working for a big international corporation. But when she took issue with the direction of its new leader, she got to retire at 58, and he went to jail. She moved to the Pioneer Valley in 1996. Her life's mission was community building, so she immediately joined and became active in several organizations, especially including 5 College Learning in Retirement for years. More recently, she joined the board of Northampton Neighbors, which is especially lucky for us because she loves governance and she's really good at it. Dr. Jonathan Daube, born and educated in Great Britain, came to the United States in 1963. His professional positions in academia, both in the UK and in the US, include, after a doctorate from Harvard, serving as a school superintendent in Massachusetts, graduate school director in Ohio, president of Berkshire Community College in Massachusetts, president of Manchester Community College in Connecticut, where a magnet high school building was named for him, and interim president of Middlesex Community College in Connecticut. He has honorary degrees from universities in the US and Scotland. Married for over 60 years, he and his wife Linda have 3 children and 3 grandchildren, which thankfully for us is what lured them to settle here in Northampton. Jonathan serves on the board of Northampton Neighbors, and I'm told he plays a mean game of pétanque. Jonathan, why don't you start us off?
Well, there's just one rule as far as I'm concerned. Above all, do as Naomi and I say, not as we do. I've been thinking about the time we spend growing into adulthood, and I reckon it's about 25 years by the time we're supposed to act like responsible adults. And the difference between seeking purpose at the other end after work. We spend maybe 25 minutes. I suppose I'm exaggerating a little bit. I retired on a Friday, woke up on the Monday and wondered, what do I do now? And it took me months to get into a routine. I hadn't given it much thought. I tried to stay or become connected to people of all shapes and sizes as I grew older. Grandkids would move away eventually, and they have, and the older generation would be disappearing. Some people keep a list of friends and acquaintances. What percentage is of a different religion or race or age or background from year to year? And if that percentage is embarrassingly low, we can do something about it. We can do it now. The key to healthy aging is relationships, relationships, relationships. Start or strengthen the process before the weekend. Talk a lot, because the world is ours. When phoning, I try to ask, is this a good time to talk? And offer to Zoom or call back. When my wife and I moved to be near children and grandchildren in Florence, we joined all kinds of groups. I became enthusiastic about Friends of Northampton Trails because of the people, not so much because of the trails. And I left a group I won't mention because they're a boring, know-it-all, self-centered bunch. I think I was polite about it. At 70, I started too late and too slowly to acquire some new interests. The best example, as has already been mentioned, is pétanque, the French version of bocce, here at Mains Field in Florence, when it's not too cold. My wife and I joined Northampton Neighbors, no cost, no obligations, and the senior center, similar deals. Don't postpone travel. Start with the most challenging that you can afford. Alaska or France next summer, Amherst later in life. I've always had a valid passport, even if I had no plans. About $130 for 10 years. I walked the trails. I still have a hard time accepting that almost everything is unpredictable and uncertain, but I'm 88 today and predict with certainty that I won't live another 88 years. I went through a stage when I thought too much about mortality. When Naomi and I were born in 1937, life expectancy in the United States was about 62. Today, it's about 79. So I guess that's progress. The sooner we decide how we might spend the rest of our lives, the better. Do we want to be close to family or friends? Do we want to settle where it's warm or inexpensive? Or just stay where we live right now? Whatever we want is okay. And wherever we land, we want to be sure to emerge with a stable of competent, nearby doctors. Long before we get seriously ill, we should know them well, and they should know us. I retired at 70, and I wish my wife and I had made some key decisions when I was 65 rather than 10 years older. I came up with a saying, I hate moving, but I love having moved. We have to be as ready as we can for the decline and death of spouses, partners, close friends. That's hard. Linda and I have been married for 61 years. And I, for one, do better these days with a good therapist. When I was growing up 50 miles from London, towards the end of World War II, I had little idea what psychiatrists did. Today, the joke circulates that there are great therapists all over the place, never enough, and their clients happily discuss their interactions. As I've said, there are very few facts of which we can be certain. I've given you one example already, and I don't care to repeat it. Above all, we old folks have nothing to hide. But let's do whatever we're going to do sooner rather than later. Now, Naomi, why don't you go after me?
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. You said a lot of very pithy and important things. But before I start to talk, I just want to make a remark about our different approaches to this. I think in some ways they exemplify people of each of our genders who grew up when we did. Your biography, for instance, is very sequential, very successful. You did this and then that and then that and then that. That was a very masculine, career-oriented way to go. It reads terrifically. Mine, on the other hand, jumped all around. Mark made the best of it by calling it a jack of all trades. But it took a friend of mine to explain to me some years ago how very important that kind of very female-oriented at the time biography is, and how valuable my model of doing life the way I did has been for women. The same thing is true of our approach to this talk. Jonathan wrote an extensive 5-minute or so talk, and I said, I'm going to wing it. Again, I think that there's a lot of gender in that. So take that as you will. Two things that I particularly did want to speak of. The first is when Jonathan and I came on the board together with 4 other new people. So there were a lot of new people joining the board when we did. We were asked to say something about ourselves and what we're doing here on the board. And as Jonathan has noted, both of us were basically asked because suddenly the board realized that although it's an organization that's supposed to serve older people, they didn't have anybody in their 80s. So the 2 of us were asked. And when I was asked to say something, what I said in essence was, the thing you need to remember is that the difference between 65 and 75 is not the same as the difference between 75 and 85. The difference between 75 and 85, for most people, not for all, is more like the difference between 10 and 20, or maybe even the difference between 5 and 10. When we're born, we learn and we grow and we learn and we grow very fast. And then for years and years and years, we kind of rest on our laurels. We learn more, but not compared to what we learned as children. And then there's the decline. And again, it starts out slow, and then suddenly there's a drop. For some people, for many people, it's around 80. I know people in their 90s for whom it hasn't happened yet. I know people in their 70s for whom it is happening right now. But for almost all of us, there's a big change. Prepare for it. If you're dealing with people who are making that change, it's good to know that that's happening. The other thing I wanted to say is that we've been asked to talk about being really old. Well, I have, during the last year, been living in two different, what they call senior congregant living. I was living in Christopher Heights assisted living, and I'm now living in Lathrop in East Hampton in the inn. In both cases, I am not that old. In both cases, there are people in their hundreds. One woman at 105 is still playing games, moving around, participating in activities. Almost none of us in these living situations wanted to go there. Everybody wants to stay in their home. Studies say that's not the way to grow old gracefully. Studies say that people who live in that congregant housing situation are healthier and live longer. And I find that very easy to explain. We have very little to worry about. Everything gets taken care of for us. And we have great social interaction. Jonathan has spoken very feelingly and importantly about the value of friendships and relationships. And here we are in this living situation where we sit with different people for dinner, not alone in our home, but with other people that we can talk to. It makes a difference. I think the only other thing that I'm going to say is to reiterate what Jonathan said. He said, whatever we want is okay. Do it, especially if you're younger. That means you in your 70s even. Do it now. I did at least 3 really large exotic trips to China and Vietnam and South Africa, etc., from 2004 to 2014. And 11 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm hanging up my travel boots. Do it now. I think I'll leave it at that and let you ask questions. And as you can see, we both talk a lot.
Thank you, both of you. There was so much in that. I've got a slew of questions of my own, but I want to defer to anyone else who's participating here who has something that they want to ask or say. So let's see. Jane Fleischman is unmuted. So let me see if I know how to. Oh, if you're unmuted, you can just talk, Jane. Go right ahead.
Hi. Hi, Mark.
I
Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Naomi. That was great. I'm so excited that you're both here today and that we have you for an hour at Northampton Neighbors. Hey, I have a question. And Naomi, you alluded to this just a moment ago, but aging is often depicted as lonely, depressing, stagnant. Yet both of you are here talking about these incredible parts of your lives that you're still active in. So, one question I have is, what are the unexpected joys that you've encountered through your almost 90 years of life? And either of you or both of you could take this one on. Thanks so much.
I'll start because it goes back to something that Jonathan said, which is friendships. I have unexpectedly, in the last certainly 10 years, I think even less than that, gotten new, younger friends. I was always the youngest. All my growing up years, I was the youngest in my group of friends. And suddenly I am the oldest. And it's wonderful. Make younger friends now.
I
Jonathan?
would add to that one of my closest friends here in Northampton is fully 70 years younger than I am. And you do the math. This is really important. But I want to answer the reverse of your question. You are possibly surrounded by people who are very close to you, who are seriously ill, or you get news of a death, and you have to somehow be able to cope with that as well. My own personal solution is to get a good therapist, which I wouldn't have dreamed of 50 years ago. I wouldn't even have known what a therapist was. I'm now at the other extreme. I think everybody could do with a therapist. And I'm not just saying that to give Mark some business. And Northampton, stereotypically, people assume that everybody is a teacher or a therapist or something. But I think you have to see both sides. And I have been through a stage where I was seriously depressed and where I was in the hospital and all of that, and never thought I'd come out. But Northampton Neighbours is unique in that there are people of all ages. And when I say all ages, yes, anybody over 50, people under 50 are just immature. And if possible, it isn't possible for everyone, if possible, acquire grandchildren.
Okay. Judith Lewis has a question, and I know a couple came into chat, which I will ask Nina to help us with. Judith.
Yes, hi. Thank you. This is so interesting. Naomi, I had a question for you. How did you know when it was time to go into congregate living? And was that a difficult choice for you? You said nobody there really wanted to be there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I could talk about it like almost everyone else here. It took a happening, it took an event.
Mm.
I did not decide and choose. It happened. Having happened, I have to tell you, be more open to it. It's really good. But I did not, I lived in the world's best apartment. I never ever wanted to leave. But events happen. So I can't say more than that.
And I would add that she is ahead of me, not only about a year ahead, but I think you're a great grandmother, aren't you?
3 and almost 4 times, yes.
Wow.
I am expecting my 4th great grandchild this month.
I want to ask a follow-up question, and then I want Nina to take a couple the out of the chat, and then I can see Bob and Leah. So my follow-up question is, why is it good to have friendships with people who are younger, 70 years younger in your case, Jonathan? I mean, there's kind of an obvious answer to that. You know, they're youthful, nice energy, but in a way you would think it would be comforting to be relating more with people your own age because they would understand so much better what you're going through. So why is that so powerful and so positive? Either of you.
Well,
Well,
it's unusual, and I'll let Naomi say something more original than that.
Well, one reason when I talk to a dear friend of mine who is my age and I tell her about these friends, she's envious because now in her 90s, her friends are dying. That's one of the
Yeah.
realities of growing older, is the people that you lived with all your life are leaving. So it's nice to have people who aren't there yet. So that's a piece of it. It's
Okay.
certainly not all of it by a long shot,
Yeah.
but that is a piece.
Yeah. Okay. And Jonathan, was there something you wanted to add to that or no?
No, I think we agree.
Okay. All right, good. So we have a question from Bob. I'm gonna switch over to Leah while Bob is figuring out his tech, and I'm gonna come back to him. Leah, by the way, being the granddaughter of Naomi Yanis, also on the board of Northampton Neighbors. Leah.
I wasn't going to say anything, but Jonathan brought up Naomi's grandchildren. Um, so I thought I would. And I want to add, as a person on the other side of that relationship, um, on the younger end, how rewarding it is for young people to have those close relationships with older folks as well. And I encourage you all to pull the younger people in your lives in, because it's hard as a young person to stand up and say, you know, I really want more time with you, grandma, or whatever it is. And really, once you're doing it, it is fantastic. So, but really, I'm speaking up to say that Naomi's birthday is tomorrow, and happy birthday to her.
Oh, I
Thank
think
you,
at the
Leah.
end we have to sing happy birthday to both of them.
Thank you, Leah. And I would like to say something about that because one of my younger friends has spoken of having grown up in a rural town in New Hampshire with her grandparents and great grandparents around, that she knew old people and that has made a huge difference in her life as she has grown older to have been through that. And in the way people grow up now, as Leah noted, so few of them really have that experience. So if you're young or know younger people, urge them to get to know older people well.
Um, Bob, is your text
Should we
straightened
try
out?
again? Can you hear me this time?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, great. So I do remember moving into retirement age and being in a panic, because you had the social group. When I got up in the morning, I knew what I was going to do. Um, and when I went to work, there were people of all ages, and we were part of a team. A couple of things that I'm wondering about. Um, in the different, I believe strongly in community, and I believe I see it as all of us. It's the young people, it's the middle-aged people, it's the people with kids, grandkids, and so on. Um, and I wonder if do Northampton Neighbors has done a good job at really reaching out to some of the many groups that are in there. I've been impressed with that. There are other groups. The one I'm most impressed with, and I'm not sure if any of you were involved with, is that relationship you have with the University of Mass, where you have um, uh, more senior people partnering up with kids in class. I call them kids in class. Intergenerational. And that's for one person in particular that I had worked with that was really struggling emotionally. She's the happiest person in the world now. She gets together with her student, the student gets together with her, they share things. And many people are like that. I guess I'm looking for ways that and maybe it's a question. I mean, do people really want to get involved with multi-generational groups? And I look at groups like the DNA, Downtown Northampton Association, who has these activities and benefit when somebody volunteers, to join two other people, out, with Taste of Northampton or with Bag Days or whatever. And the thing about us, I'm just about 80. We're a force. We have knowledge base that honestly, in a meeting, you realize, well, we really know a lot. And we have something to offer. And I can tell you with the DNA, I came into that and I feel like, I'm part of that community. It's the DNA community. I do things with them. Sometimes I don't. And they do it. Sometimes they don't. I guess my question is, do you see a role of us playing a bigger role in the well-being of the entire community by being part of those groups?
Okay, Jonathan, let me throw that to you first, okay?
My hearing isn't the greatest. Can you repeat the question
Mark, you're a better
in
speaker,
half?
please.
Yeah, the question,
Mark,
yeah,
can you repeat it in half a sentence?
sure. The question was whether you see a role for people in your age group as being a resource for the community as a whole. Is that it, Bob?
I do. It depends largely on us. If we simply play the role of the elder statesman who knows everything, will quickly become a bore and get escorted off stage. I spent all my life in education. I was on the search committee for the now retiring school superintendent. And I like to think I was able to contribute something. And that's where I met my 70, the woman who has 70 years on me. Yes, but it's up to us. You can't just sit at home and wait for people to request this or that. You have to go out. And eventually, we're trying to look at the good side of things. Eventually, ill health will catch up with it. I mean, that's part of the deal. I've had a hard time learning that. And remember, if you are partnered or married or whatever, almost inevitably, one of the two of you will go first, unless there's a horrible traffic accident or something. And it's better, I have learned reluctantly, it's better to think about those things than to try and avoid them.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to Naomi because we have a bunch of other questions coming. And I want to mention that if people didn't see it, Diane Porcella, the executive director of Northampton Neighbors, put in the chat that Northampton Neighbors very actively works to make connections with the Montessori School, Smith College, Smith Voc, and a few others that I'm forgetting right now at the moment. Naomi.
I want to disagree with Jonathan that it's up to us. I think society needs to change if we are going to be valuable in general. That is, I know many people older than I over the years complained that when they spoke, they were ignored. They were made invisible. You go to the doctor and the doctor speaks to your daughter or what have you, rather than to you. Our society has made old people invisible. And the advice that I had just given of urge young people to get to know older people, see their value that way, will make a big difference as they grow older if the society can change its mind and come to know that there's value to older people.
Thank you. Grace.
Thank you both so much for this, and thank you, Northampton Neighbors, for this wonderful experience. I'm just enjoying every minute of it. And speaking as Naomi's friend who grew up with lots of old people, I want to say a couple of things about that. One of them is that my grandparents used to take me when I was a little girl with them when they went to the cemeteries to plant flowers. And so I grew up with people talking about not only their own aging, but talking about the people who came before them and the people who came before that. So I got this sense of how time passes that's been very helpful to me as I'm getting older myself. I'm just shy of 80. And so I get to know some of how this works. And I remember one summer when I was about 7, when 3 of my very important old people died all within a couple of weeks, you know? And so I watched people around me deal with that and feel those things and talk about it. And it felt really normal to me as a child to be part of that. And I think that's a very uncommon experience anymore. And it's something that we can help with if we can start to just look for openings. And it isn't up to one generation or the other. And it's, as a structural problem, it's really up to all of us. The other thing is, I think one of the things young people need is people to listen to them and validate their crazy ideas. And especially my favorite is the people between about 17 and 30, you know, because that's a big transition. And usually they're supposed to already know everything, because that's crazy, but that's what they think. And that's what we think about them. What are you going to do when you grow up? Who knows, right? I've done 30 things in my life, at least already. So listening is really important. So I'm listening to you and I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Grace. Linda.
Just unmuting myself. Was I successful?
Yes.
Okay. Someone in the chat said, how do you get ready for this if you're around 70? My career was as a registered dietitian. I did a lot of the job was doing home visits to people who were getting meals from us. And in my first month of working on this, I talked with a woman who was now homebound and getting meals from us and was twisted with anguish that she had never helped other people who were at that stage. And being a typical New Englander, it was really hard for her to ask for help if she hadn't already given it. So there she was, unable to do a lot of things for herself, and she felt she had no one. She repeated often during our time together, I wish I'd helped people out when I was able to. So all you kids out there, those in the 60s and 70s, and a few that are younger, oh, for heaven's sakes, help them out. Join Northampton Neighbors, give people a ride. We've had some wonderful rides with new people. So there you go. That's it.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for sharing that. Bert. You have to unmute.
Unmute.
There you go.
Have I done it?
Yep.
Okay, good. I think Linda just pointed out something really important, and that is we have to learn to be able to ask for help. We've all grown up in a society where we've been encouraged to be independent and to offer help. But we have to be able to accept help as well. And that's not easy in this world. Being able to ask is part of learning to get older. The other thing is, for me, and I'm 92 now and somewhat limited physically, I get up in the morning and I think I should have a job. And I think, how do I do that? Where do I do that? It's very troubling not to feel really useful in this world. And being useful also requires that one doesn't demand too much of the others. I'm really horrible at technology. Well, so many of the ways in which one can be useful now is to be really savvy on your phone and you're this and you're that. And I'm not. So would I be more of a liability or would I be useful? And those are things that at 92 I consider.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Bert. Thank you for that.
Um,
Sarah.
Thank you so much. Both of you have been wonderful. It's good to hear you. I have two questions. One is I'm almost in my 80s, so I'm getting ready. And many people in their 80s have told me that's when your infrastructure sues for non-support. Is that the biggest limitation? And do you feel it like suddenly? My other question is, what made you stop wanting to travel, Naomi?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll answer the second one first. I had been doing all of this traveling, and I had been taking grandchildren with me on some of these trips. The last trip I took was to Costa Rica with my grandchild Eliza, because she's a scientist and loves animals and stuff. And I thought, well, that's a good place to go with her. Suddenly, the people on the trip were so much younger and could do so much more. And I couldn't keep up with them. And I said, you know what? The kind of travel that I like to do, I can't do anymore. I could do other kinds, but I can't do adventure traveling. So that's the answer to that one. The answer to your infrastructure suing for non-support. That's a wonderful way to put it. And indeed, that is what happens to all of us. I think both Jonathan and I are fortunate that it's our physical infrastructure rather than our heads. For many of the people that I see, it's the heads.
Right.
I personally would find that much harder to deal with, I think. But I think part of what enables one to deal with either kind of infrastructure falling apart is being prepared for it. That is, knowing it's coming and being okay with it. You're never really okay with it, but more okay than not okay. One of the things that I notice in a lot of older people is a tendency to criticize a lot, to complain a lot. Sometimes it seems to be their major preoccupation. Maybe it's their hobby of complaining. I think that every time you complain, it hurts you and you feel less competent and you complain more because you feel less competent. And every time you compliment someone or yourself, you feel a little better and can be more comfortable with whatever comes up. So complain less is one of the things that you can do, I think. That's very personal feeling.
Thank you.
Jonathan, do you want to add anything?
No, I thought we were going to have, Naomi and I were going to have fun disagreeing about a whole lot of things.
Nah.
Your choice of speakers was inadequate. We're agreeing on most. We don't agree on everything, but we are agreeing on most things.
Good.
And certainly, if you are in a partnership, relationship, or marriage, or whatever, brothers, sisters, they matter every bit as much as and control your decisions pretty much, every much as you do. An example, I have a brother that I'm very close to, lives in Toronto. He's approaching his 80th birthday. His immediate family feel that there should be a celebration. They're coming here to celebrate because one of us is not, or both of us, not secure enough, fit enough to travel to Toronto and back again. They might not let us back. And it occurred to me, and because of the climate in this country, it occurred to me that I am an immigrant. I am an American citizen now, but and have been for a while, but I am an immigrant. And the powers that be have the authority to kick me out.
Oh, no, they don't.
Which I think is probably not going to happen. You know, but there are things that happen in the larger world that can be worrisome, and we have to live with them. And I think personally, because I've been in education all my life, it's public schools where good things can happen. I should say we have 3 grandchildren, so we've watched the Northampton schools at all levels. And they're pretty good. They really are.
Okay. Yeah, I want to bring in a couple of other people. I see David, Lori, and Bob, and I also have 1 or 2 questions to bring in. One comes from Naomi Gerstel, who is a member of the Speakers Committee. She said, "What do you expect of your children now, and how have your expectations changed?"
Lower your hand. You can take it off. Very good.
Naomi, do you want to take that one?
Well, it's moved on.
Let me think a bit.
Okay.
Jonathan?
Yep.
Well, it's interesting how children, we have 3 children, they're all middle-aged. The expectations change sort of automatically. They sort of run the family in a way that would have been unheard of 25 years ago. And our grandchildren, who are now in college or beyond college, I can see how they're going to run things when I'm long gone, and that gives me and my wife enormous pleasure. They're very sensible. They're very caring. They've borrowed our car. Who knows whether we'll ever see it again? Some of these things happen automatically if you let them. And I was going to say, you have to trust the next generation and the next generation. But yeah, they have to earn the trust also.
Okay. Naomi, did you want to add something?
Well, I think that is such a particularized thing. Just as at the other end, I have had friends who raised their grandchildren. I was not that involved with with raising my grandchildren. The same thing at this end. I know some of the people, their children are there every week, some even every day. I know that I can rely on my children when I need them. I try not to need them too much. They're in their 60s. They've got their own problems, their own lives to live. But I do know that they're there for me when I need them, and they certainly have stepped in when I needed them.
I should add that one of the great inventions of the last few years is Zooming. The only good thing about COVID was the emergence of Zooming.
Yeah.
Zooming is so much more powerful than just talking on the phone. I have two brothers. One is in Western Australia, the other is in Toronto. We used to see each other every few years when one of us would be traveling. Now we Zoom whenever we want to. And it's not quite the same as being together, but it's close.
Yeah. Okay, if it's okay with Naomi and Jonathan, we're going to blow past 4 o'clock. We will not go later than 4:15, but if there are more questions, we'll be here for them. I see Lori. I hope David Bliss comes back. I don't know where he went. And then Bob, because Bob had a question already. So let me start with Lori.
I wanted to respond to the person who was talking about wanting to have a job. Um, and I feel like our society puts so much importance on that um, that I feel really lucky now that I don't have to have a job.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to it's more, I think more important perhaps than doing something or being productive is being virtuous and being happy. And I think those pursuits in old age are so worthy. You know, a lot of us think virtue might be easy to obtain, but actually being virtuous is a
Full-time
work
job.
all day long, you know? It's work. And I think serving our communities with a joyful presence makes a difference. Naomi says, complain less. Um, and I would say, you know, yeah, if you have to complain, complain, but maybe add something like, and my life is blessed, you know, and count blessings every day to kind of soak in joy. Why not? You know, what else? Well, we probably have other things to do, but we certainly could center that. So I thought I'd comment.
Thank you very much. You really added something there, clarifying, I think. Naomi.
I just want to emphasize what Laurie has said. The thing about wanting to have a job is part of our, I think, masculine sensibility. You need a job and a career and a blah, 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 blah. And therefore, when you retire, you feel like, what am I supposed to do? And those of us who grew up female in the 50s, who went through the kind of doing this and then that and then the other thing, and then having some time off to take care of kids, in many ways contributed more to our communities and our societal changes that are for the better. There have been some, than those who had those kinds of careers. It'd be nice to be able to balance those two kinds of things, but having a job is the opposite of what we need now. What we need now at this juncture, which is one that Joanna Macy called the Great Turning, we hope it will turn in the good direction. If it does, it will be because we got rid of that idea of independence being valuable and got to know that community and interdependence is what we need.
I want to make a comment about that because I thought that Bert's point was less about the job than it was that one of the challenges of being really old for some people is feeling useless, feeling not of value. And I think Lori addressed that beautifully by saying you can be of value, you know, you don't have, you know, you can contribute to your community. And I thought that Bert's point was a very good one about that facet of growing older.
And Bert is indeed an exemplar of
Yes,
exactly that.
exactly. Yes. Okay, Bob, and then Sarah, and then Deborah.
Our picture has one hand and two people. And today, or now, the one hand belongs to my wife, Diana.
Okay, good.
I'm Diana Buckley, Bob's wife. And I just wanted to make a comment. This has been great. And I'm almost 79. Bob just turned 79. And we had that turning point. I think that, Naomi, you might have been talking about Bob's back went out. And we live in two places, and we're supposed to be at the other place now. And we're not there now because he can hardly walk. So we're dealing with that. And so that may be one of our turning points. But what I wanted to say is that I think the comments about listening and the intergenerational listening, all people want to be listened to and really heard. And I think we have a bunch of grandkids. We raised a grandchild, so we have great grandchildren, but they're kind of like our grandchildren because their mother we raised since she was 5. And, so we have kids from 3 until 21, a whole slew of them. And they, and they really want to be, if they're heard without judgment and without us saying, well, this is how we did it, this is how we did it. And we do that with our children as they raise their children. We do it with our grandchildren and just accept. And I like to think of it as shining the best sunlight on each child that's in our life and just watch them, someone may be a daisy, someone may be a sunflower, someone may be a petunia, but let them help them to grow and trust whoever they are. So I think your comment, I think it was probably both of you, Jonathan, you started out about, relationships. And I think it's really important. And we have a lot to give if we're not judgmental and we're not critical.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. It's a great image, by the way. Sarah.
So I wanted to say first, if you would like to have something like a job, there are lots of possibilities within Northampton Neighbors. That there are ways we could put you to use, and that allows you also to build community and to be virtuous. So report in. I have 2 committees that would love to have new members, and they are so satisfying, and it kind of feels like a job because I feel very useful, and I also feel I have obligations, I have to do things. So we welcome your involvement, and I think you will love it. Then I have 2 questions. One question is about education. Do you think, I know Naomi's been really involved with learning in retirement because I have been too. How much do you think that has helped in traversing the aging process? And the second question, just a minute, the second question is there anything really good and positive about being really old, that you could tell us about and help us look forward to this process with even more eagerness?
Yes. Now let me remember what the first question was. Oh, learning and retirement. I don't know. I have been in learning and retirement for 30 years. I don't know how I could have survived my 30 years of retirement without it. Because I live so much in my brain. I am not one of the people who hikes and blah, 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 does physical things. I do brain stuff. So for me, that has been totally invaluable. I mean, as I say, I can't imagine what my life would have been like without it. It is wonderful. So that's the answer to that part. The second one was
Anything really great,
Yes, actually, I'm not quite as far along on that as many of the people where I am living, which is to some degree anyway, disengaging from the immediate horrors that are going on.
Mm.
I know that I can't be out there doing my physical resistance. My head still resists. I still can write letters if I did that. But there's a sense of this isn't the life, this isn't the world that I'm going to have to be living in. And there's a sense of it's horrible, it's awful, but I don't have to know the day-to-day horribleness.
Mm. Huh.
Okay.
That's definitely a value today.
So if we end at 4:15, we have about 7 minutes left. I know there's one other question. I don't know whether, Jonathan, you want to respond to what just came up. I don't know whether either of you want some time at the end for closing remarks. And I'm hoping people will join me singing happy birthday before we end.
I don't, I don't need to do closing remarks. I can give them to you. I think the retiring at whatever age one does gave me a lot of freedom. The first 10 years in particular, I wrote a book, but I could do it when I wanted. The big surprise about being retired and being old and all that is that I still have an awful lot of things to do, but I do them when I want to do them. If I want to do it tomorrow, that's fine. Whereas in my working life, I had a schedule and I had to be at a certain place at a certain time. We moved to Florence about 10 years ago. I think I've worn a tie once in those 10 years, and that gives me great joy. So yeah, there's some good things, but you have to learn how to live with illness, either your own or somebody else's. You do get a little scared if you're weaker today than you were yesterday. I mean, you know this is going to end, and that's why I suggest talking with someone fairly regularly about all that. And there's no choice about that. I'm 88, and Naomi, trying to stay ahead, is 89.
Tomorrow.
89 tomorrow. Oh my God! So you've got to sing "Happy Birthday" very loudly. We're not going to be around in 88 and 89 years, and we know that for a fact. And it's not something that pleases me particularly, but I've learned to control it.
Okay.
And I shrug my shoulders figuratively and literally.
So I'm sorry, Naomi, go ahead.
I just wanted, that's a really good point. I think a lot of shrugging shoulders is very valuable. Hey, that's the way it is. That was then, this is now.
Yes, my comment about aging to my wife, and we do it all the time, is I say, what are you going to do? Just a shrug. There was another questioner, but I'm guessing they had to leave. And so I hope people will join me in singing happy birthday. Thank you, by the way.
Before that, Mark, they're
Yep.
going to have to unmute. Everyone can unmute.
Ah,
Otherwise, we won't hear them.
okay.
Oh,
And again,
That
We'll
might
hear
be a good
cacophony.
thing.
If they
Thank-
unmute, we're going to hear a cacophony.
no, you're going to hear a beautiful chorus, choral society. And again, so much thanks to both of you for doing this. I think
Very
people
great.
you had tons of people here. We reached our 100-person limit, so who knows how many wanted to get in and
Wow.
So, happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy birthday to you. It's a chorus.
Happy
Happy birthday, dear Naomi and Jonathan.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday
to
you.
Bye,
That was
everyone. Thanks for
delightfully
coming.
ghastly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.